So what's on the agenda for today? Like I said, first of all, what is pdfToolbox? Then we'll be going over three main parts, being the switchboard, then profiles, and then the visualizers that are included in the program. pdfToolbox can do a whole lot of things. I made some slides about some of the functionality within the program. You can see this is a list of the first slide. There is another slide. We can make another slide, two more slides. There is a lot of stuff included in the program to work with PDF files. We won't be going over all of these. It's just to show you that there's a lot of stuff included. I will show you some of the functionality I listed here. So pdfToolbox exists as a plugin for Acrobat and as a standalone application. The application is easy to use, using the switchboard with ready-made actions, the visualizers to inspect files in detail without a lot of hassle, but it's also very powerful. Then we would be using profiles that you can customize all you want, and variables using JavaScript. We have a desktop application for manual use if you want to be working at one file at a time, which is what most of you will likely be doing. From the desktop application, you can use all the switchboard functionality, the profiles, everything the program has to offer, but it will be manual, so you will be using one file at a time or batch processing on a folder. Then we have the server application, which is automated using hot folders, so you can automate a workflow with an in and an out folder and use some set servers to process specific kinds of files for specific outputs. There is also a command line interface and an SDK for integration within other applications. These all use the same profiles and they all offer the exact same functionality. This means that there is a version of the software available for any specific user case. So we're going to dive right in and go straight to the desktop version, which I will be focusing on today. So this is pdfToolbox Desktop. I'll start with opening a file, a test file. Let's see. Here we go. So we have a file. It's a penguin, because of course it is. This is the switchboard. It's important to note that the pdfToolbox viewer is the correct viewer. So the view you have of your file here is how it will be printed. The overprint option is always on, so it can be misconfigured. You can be looking at a file the wrong way, which is possible in other PDF applications. You can trust that what you're seeing is correct. I'll start by going over the first part of the presentation, which is the switchboard. The switchboard is meant to be easy to use, quick to use, and offer a lot of different functionalities. This means, however, that it can't do everything. So the very complicated, very powerful stuff is not possible to integrate in the actions here. For that, we will be using profiles, which I will show later on. So the switchboard is divided in categories. You have arrange, present, standards, prepress, a lot of different categories. Each of these categories contains a set of actions that it has to do with that specific functionality. So in the arrange category, which is all about imposition, we have different ways you can impose files. Now, if you go, for example, to the step and repeat, which is this one, you will see there is some information you have to put in, because each of these actions can only work the way you want them to if they have a little more information. So if we put this to minimal size, and we say we want, for example, 5 by 4 penguins with some space in between and cut marks, then this will calculate the minimal size for this layout to work. I'll just press execute. You can see it working, and there we go. Now we have a lot of penguins. And this is all really quick, really easy. As long as you know what you want, you can probably do it here. So that's one of the options in the arrange functionality. Let's revert the file to 1. Go back to arrange. Of course, you can do way more than just a step and repeat. There is also duplicating pages, and up if you use different pages instead of only the one penguin. You can fill a page, you can do impositions. I'm going to show you an imposition right away, since we're on the subject. So we have a different file. This file has pages. So we have 16 pages, each with their own penguins. Now we can use an imposition on that. If we say page size any per sheet, we want 4 pages, we're using this specific sheet configuration, which is all stuff that you have to select. The sheet configurations will only show stuff that fits with the other options here. So it will always scale down. If we have a specific page size that we selected, then the options here will disappear to only leave those that are connected to that page size. So I press execute, and you see, oh, there we go. We have an imposition for our 16 pages. This is the beauty of the switchboard. It's all really fast, it's all really easy, as long as you know what you want to do. Now, of course, like I said, there is also the batch functionality. Now, this isn't a very good one. If we take step and repeat, and we say we want to batch all files, it will ask you to select a folder. So we'll go to browse, go to a specific folder somewhere, and it will process all the files in that folder the same way you selected here. So that's a little bit of automation within the switchboard, so you won't have to do every single file. If it's the exact same thing you want to do, it's easier to do it all at once. So that's the batch functionality. Now, to go to another category, let's see document. Document offers some very useful actions as well. We have Office to PDF, which will only work if you have either a version of Microsoft Office or OpenOffice on your computer, but it's still very nice to do it easily. We have Image to PDF, we have PostScript to PDF. These are all good functionalities if you have to have a PDF output. We can also do an image export and a PostScript export and an EBS export. So those are all very quick actions. Then another category would be, we have a few more specific categories. We have fonts and colors, for example, layers. If we go to fonts, we have embedding fonts, replacing fonts, fonts to outlines. In colors, you would have all kinds of color conversions. So you could do process conversion, which is RGB to CMYK. We have device links, we have spot color conversions. All these actions are in here. So if I want this penguin to be black and white, I can say convert to black and white, execute, processing, and we have a black and white penguin. So an RGB to CMYK conversion, for example, would be very easy to do here. Some other useful things, layers, you can flatten layers. In reports, you can make a report about what is inside your file. So if I would make a report, maybe not this file, let's take a little more complicated file, if you add this file, and I say I want to report about the fonts that are in here. Let's say execute. Oh, there we go. We have a report, and we have apparently 6 fonts. So fonts 3 out of the 6 would be corporate A medium. Well, who knew? So we have all this information. You can simply see, which glyphs are used, what font is used, all the information, and you can do that with a simple click on the report. Now there are more reports. There are colors, which is also very interesting. We have images, and we have compare documents if you want to compare 2 versions of the same document to see if there's a difference between them. That is basically what the switchboard does. They offer quick actions, really fast. You can do a lot of stuff, all quick to your fingers. But as I said, oh, this is also a good one before I switch to the profiles. We have standards which will make a file compliant to a certain standard. So if I go back to the car and I say I want it to be PDF X1A compliant, you can say execute. It'll want me to save. There we go. And now it's X1A compliant. So you can see at the bottom here, we got a new badge saying PDF X1A. If you open a file that is supposed to be PDF X compliant, for example, this one, you'll see it says PDF X3 compliant. Now, it says that, but you can't really trust it because it's just what the file says it is. So it's actually metadata from the file that is being shown here. So you'd still want to do a check for PDF X3 and see if it's compliant there. Now, let's close some of these up again because we're making it a bit full, and look at the next part. Switchboard is over. Oh, and we'll go into profiles. So here are the profiles. This is where the more complicated, more interesting stuff happens. So when the switchboard goes for easy-to-use quick actions, the profiles go for customizability. So in a profile, you can do a lot more at the same time, and customize it to be very, very specific to what you need in your output. There are different libraries in your profiles, which is also very important. Right now I'm set to Essentials. If you've just installed, you will have 5 libraries, which would be Device Link, Essentials, PDF Standards, Prepress, and Shapes. I made this support for specific support functionalities. So this means you can make your own library and add all the profiles you made yourself, for example, to a specific library. That way you don't get lost. The thing is that stuff you put in a library is not visible in other libraries. So while you might have some standards or some prepress profile in here, you might not see all these in the shapes and variables. So if you can't find what you're looking for, it might just be that you're in the wrong library for it. Let's go back to Essentials. The Profiles window, which is also checks and fixups, is all the same window, but there are different buttons here. So a profile exists out of a check or multiple checks and fixups, or either one. They don't have to contain both. A check will look for a hit within a file. So if we close this one, we don't need that one anymore, and we go back to the car, and I have this check which will do the effective ink coverage, and I click Analyze, you'll see, no problems found. Nowhere within the bleed box there is an effective ink coverage of more than 320%. Now, it looks like that might be because there isn't a bleed box present. So that's not a very good example. But the check will just report, is it or isn't it? So if I say, crop box it is, page is rotated, I don't know, image, there we go. Resolution of bitmap images between 0 and 100%. Analyze. No problems. Which means that none of the images or this one image is lower than 100 ppi. So there we go. It just says, okay, it's not a problem. Now you can see, you can create a report here as well, which will contain the same information. You have some options here about what kind of report you want while I'm showing this. You have PDF report, XML report, text report, and it will show you in detail where the problem is. But there is no problem, so we'll just get a report that says, oh, this file is fine. That's what it says, no problem found. But you can report from a check. If there are issues, it will report all the issues one by one and show you where in the file they occur. That's what a check does. It just looks for one specific thing, and it sees, is this the case or isn't this the case? Then we have fixups. What fixups do is the same thing. They look for a specific thing, but instead of just reporting, oh yeah, that's true, it actually changes it to what you want it to be. So if we have a file that is, for example, not flattened, I'm not sure if I have a file that isn't flattened. Let's just open this one again. There we go. If we say, oh, there might be some transparency in this file, I want to flatten that, just say fix. Once again, it will, every time it wants to change something in the file, it will ask you to save. So we save, that way you don't ruin your original file. Let's see what happens. It doesn't look like it had anything to do. So we have all this, all the information about what it was trying to do. Yeah, it did not. So there was nothing it had to do in this case. There are no errors or warnings. Yeah. So every time you want to do a fix-up, it'll look for a specific hit. So is there transparency? And if so, flatten it. So it is always a cause and an effect here. While in a check, it will only look, is this the case? Then a profile has the ability to combine multiple checks, multiple fix-ups. So if you want to get a specific file and make it pdfx1a compliant, for example, then this profile will contain, no, there we are, it's on the wrong screen. So I'm looking inside the profile now. You'll see this is all locked because this is a specific type of profile. You can unlock them here, it's very easy. You can make them password protected, but there's really no reason to do that unless you really want to protect your own profiles. If you unlock a profile, you're able to change everything. So this is why all the locks on all the categories disappear when I unlock the profile. What I'll do is something that you can do as well. See, a profile contains a lot of checks and fix-ups. If you want to keep the original profile, which you should, you can, but you're thinking, yeah, I want that, but I want a little bit more, or I want to be a little bit stricter than the original profile is. You can go to Summary in the Edit window, and you can click Create Customizable Profile. What this will do is make a copy of the profile you were using. So it says copy 1, and it will put all the things that are inside these categories. For example, it asks that it is at least Acrobat 4, PDF 1.3. That's scrolling. If we go to, let's see if there was anything else that was set. It doesn't matter. So everything that you can select in these categories will now be put into custom checks and custom fix-ups. We see this all has a very big red X. X stands for error. You can change that if you think that, for example, fonts not embedded isn't the real problem. You can change it to warning or info. But it will check for all these things, while it will also try to fix all these things. So it will look for embedding missing fonts, and after doing that, it will do a check to see have the fonts actually been embedded. Now, while it's a copy, you can adjust it all you want. So you can add fix-ups from all the libraries. You can add them to this profile. You can remove fix-ups that you don't want. If I don't want to discard embedded files, I can just click this, and then we will remove that. See, there we go. We don't need that anymore. That way you can adjust the profile without having to create it from scratch, which would be a way more complicated and way longer job. You can trust that most of the profiles that are already in the program are very decent profiles, but since the profiles are meant to be customizable and to offer a lot of detail to make a specific output that you want, this is how you do that. You take a profile and you edit it. It's way easier than starting from scratch. So we're looking inside that profile now. You can see all the fix-ups, all the checks that have been added to the specific profile. Do I want to discard all changes? Yes. So there we are. You can see they're setting categories. The one I opened now was PDFX compliancy. There is also PDF analysis that shows only checks, because you can see it's only half the symbol. This would list page objects. This would list potential font issues. And that's all from the essential library. Now, let's say within all the possible checks, there isn't a check that there isn't a fix-up that does what you want it to do. Well, make your own. That's basically it. We can go to Create Fix-up, and it's once again, there we go. We can go to create fixup, and now you have all the different things you can check within a file and you can change within a file are visible here. It's a very long list. So let's say map colors. We want map spot and process colors, for example. Now we want to change a certain spot color being. Oh, I took a complicated one. So if we want to make a spot color Pantone 310C, for example, equal to Pantone 310C, and we want to map it to be a specific CMYK percentage, so we want everything that is in the spot color Pantone 310C, we want it to be 50 cyan, 50 magenta, for example. I don't know what that would give. Nothing on this file because the spot color isn't present. Make sure, if you make your own fixups, that you give them a very good name. And it's actually a good idea to name them first, because it will keep your mind on what you're trying to do. A fixup or a check you make yourself will only do one thing. So it's a very good idea to name it. For example, I want to map Pantone 310C to 50C 50M. This is very specific because it will only do that specific thing once I finish customizing it here. Then in a comment you can describe what you use it for. So it would be mapping the specific Pantone color to the specific CMYK combination. Then we say OK, so we are converting this to this, overprint unchanged, etc. If you want it to be, if you want this fixup to only work after doing a certain check, you can select your check here. So that could be find an object that uses Pantone 310C, but since it will do that with any object, you really don't have to do that here. You say OK. Oh, there we have our own check. It's in here now, and now you can use it in a profile if you want to. Same with fixups. Same with checks. If you want to make your own check, well, there you go. Create check, and you can do the same thing. All the different checks are in here. They're divided into categories. If you're looking for a specific text or font or image or whatever. If you want to do something to do with objects, you just type object in the search, and you'll see the symbol indicating which category it is from, and every single check that has object in its name will show up here. So using the search is usually the best way to go. It might not always have the name you expect. So if you're looking for a certain color thing, you might not want to look for a conversion because that doesn't give you anything, but you will find more if you go to maps, for example, or remap. So if we go to map and we go to color, you'll see this, for example. So we can go to image, no, maybe, whatever, it doesn't really matter. You use the search functionality in combination with the categories or with the all to find the specific check you're looking for. Same with fixups, same with profiles. You can always do that. Once again, make sure you type a name that makes sense and that defines what you want to do. So within all this, it basically does the same thing. You select what kind of check you're looking for, you add it, and then you say what you want to do with it, and you press OK. Then if you go to profile, like I said, you can edit the profile, which is usually the right way to go if you want to do more complicated things. If you want to do something very specific, for example, I want to take this file, I want to add bleeds, I want to add cut marks, and I want to convert it to CMYK if necessary. That's basic thing. Convert to CMYK, add bleed, add cut marks. Well, you can say create profile. There we go. You can say CMYK bleeds and cut marks. You can add some information here. Then you go to custom checks, custom fixups. We'll add some fixups. we want to do convert color to ISO-coded V2, including spot colors, because I didn't define that I didn't want to do spot colors. Add it to this profile. We want to add bleed. Is that available from this one? Apparently not. Ah, look, here we go. Add cop marks and bleed marks. There we go. Maybe we should generate some bleed first. So generate bleed. Copy 3. Apparently I used this one a few times already. So we'll add that, and now we'll see what's happening here. So within this fixup, within the profile, I can actually make fixups and edit fixups. So if I open the bleed one, I can say different ways to make bleed. I like this one. Then the width of your bleeds, the unit in which you define the width. So usually you would go for like 3 millimeters, not 20. And the resolution of your bleed. So let's just make that 150 ppi. Then you have the color space as well. We just use the output intent. That would be CMYK anyway, because I'm moving it to CMYK in the end. So we'll add that. There we go. Now it's in here and it's edited. And now we'll add marks as well. So there we go, add marks. You see that even though I added this one last, it ended up on top of the list. So the thing is, these are all just ordered alphabetically, so it's A, C, G. While executing the profiles, when using profiles, the fixups and checks will be executed in the order that makes sense to the program. So in this case, it'll probably generate the bleed, add the cop and bleed marks, and then convert the color, or convert the color first and then do the other two. Because the color conversion doesn't really matter if it happened before or after the bleed and the cop marks. So the program will define what to do in a way that makes sense to the program. If there is something very specific that you want to do, then we won't be using profiles. By the way, this profile is basically finished. So if I do OK, it appears in my custom profiles. I can say analyze and fix. It'll ask me to save because I changed something. Oh, did I already put that there? Oh, that's okay. There we go. We have 3 millimeters of bleed using the mirror, which you can see very well here on the side. And it added bleed marks and cop marks and bleed marks to the file. It also converted it to CMYK, but I think the file was already in CMYK, so the color conversion isn't visible here. So you can see over here in the list, it didn't actually do the CMYK conversion. It just did the add cop and bleed marks and the generate bleed. So there we go. This is how the profile works. And you can make those as easy or as complicated as you want. As I said before deviating, if there is something very specific that you want about the order, if there is you're adding certain spot colors and then you're converting, for example, to a CMYK space without converting those spot colors, then you might want to use a process plan instead of a profile. In a process plan, let's go back to the list. You can see over here, create process plan. I think I have some in my support library. Let's just look at one from there. There we are, map CMYK to spot color, export transparent PNG from PDF. Let's look at this one, for example. Let's see, edit. Here we go. This is a process plan. It only has 2. I expected to have a few more things here. So a process plan can contain profiles, checks, fixups, actions. This refers to actions from the switchboard. So if you have something from the switchboard that you want to use in a profile, you can export it as an action or save it as an action, and then it will be available from the action list. So if I add it, you can see I have 2 here. So place on proof background is one, and the other one is the one that was already in here. And these are from the switchboard. So here, if I want to, in this case, it's very important that the image export happens after the clip write, because this is what the specific profile was meant to do. I want to export a transparent PNG from a PDF file. So I'm removing all the white from the PDF file and then exporting it as a PNG file with a transparency channel. Now, if I were to put it in this way, it would export first and then try to clip white, which would not work, which is why you have the possibility to change the order of things in a process plan. So this is if the order in which you execute checks, fixups, and profiles matters. You can use it in a process plan. So that's how checks, fixups, and profiles work. This is the main part of the program. So this is what you would want to use. I see there are already a few questions coming in. I'll look at those. Well, I can look at those now, I suppose. I was going to look at them at the end, but okay. So Rob, you asked about nesting on a predefined sheet size. Well, if you go to your arrange here, and we want to do nesting, which would be, I suppose, fill page and up or step and repeat, you can define your sheet size at the top, and then decide on the distance between your stuff. So if I have a multi-page document, for example, using the 16-page penguin document I had earlier, and I say I want to nest it on an A1, for example, with 5 millimeters in between and adding cut marks, execute. There we go. So you define the sheet size beforehand, and then you can nest your file. It just looks like an imposition, but you can see that the order of the pages is just the order in which they were in the file. So you can make your own sheet sizes if you want. I think it's manage sheet sizes. This will open a text file, there we are, in which you can define your own sheet sizes. But that's already a bit of a move up in difficulty, because you have to be very specific about what to do. It actually explains on how you have to do this, but it's if you know what you're doing, this is a good way to do. So if you have, for example, your own custom sheet size that is 100 by 200 millimeters, you can add it here. And then save the file, restart the application, or at least restart this specific window, and you will be able to use your own sheet sizes. Another question. Rune, is it easy to see in a report which color spaces are in the PDF? Yes, it is. Do I have a PDF file with multiple color spaces? I'm not entirely sure. Well, let's just use the penguins. We go to reports, we go to colors, execute. There we go. So we have a registration color here. Let's just light this up a bit. Oh, it's on. That's interesting. So we have CMYK and registration. So you can see this is using the device CMYK color space. If you have a file that has spot colors or multiple images, you can also go to images, but that won't work on this file. Let's see if we have, for example, this one again. Execute. You will see that all the images that are in here. These are some of the generated images because of the bleed that we made. If I manage to stay on the first one, there we go. You can see this is CMYK, device CMYK color space. Now, if I go to this one, but I'm not sure if that's the case in this picture, we go to the same one. There we go. You can see this is also device CMYK. So you can easily see which color spaces are in the PDF file using those different reports. Then we have, what is a typical use case to use libraries? Well, like I said, in my case, my specific use case, I have a support library. And the support library is the library in which I put all the different things that I use for support cases. So if clients send their profiles to look for a certain thing that might be wrong, or if I make a profile specifically for a customer, then I make it in the support library, and that way it stays separated from the other predefined libraries containing the default profiles. So that would be my use case. Another use case might be that you have multiple customers and you use certain profiles for a specific customer. You might want to keep them separate, or you put them in there. I would usually start by making my own library. So you can create a library from here. You can manage libraries and you can create your own. So if we go there, here we are. We have the different libraries. We can make a new one, call it my library. And in that library, you might keep all the profiles I made myself. And that might be your place to keep your stuff. And you can choose if you want an initial set in there, if you just want it to be empty. So I would take empty. You can give it specific colors. It's actually quite nice, which is why mine is green. So that would be why you would use libraries. Then I see, can you extract images and type from PDFs? You can. That would be a functionality from, I think it's called split files. That's already a bit more complicated. I'm not entirely sure in which category it is. Extract files, that's only if there are embedded files within the profile, which is also a thing that's possible. I'm actually not sure in which category that is, but it is possible to split a file into the images and the type separately. Then you have two files, one containing type, one containing images. Yeah, two questions from Philip. How do I create a contour for cutting? Well, one of the things you can do very easily is outline a page box. So if I want to open my old penguin again, let's take the one with color this time. There we are. And I want to give it bleed. So let's start by giving it a little bleed. Add some bleed, not that much. 5 millimeter on all sides. Execute on the desktop. There we go. We have some bleed. Now you see that the box, the art box, bleed box, trim box have changed to this box, which is good. If I want to make a cut line on that location, I can outline the page box, outline page boxes, and I want to outline the trim box with a spot color on a layer. There we go, 1 point. Execute. Let's save it on the desktop again, replace it. And now we have a big green line that says where the trim box is. So that would be one way to make a cut contour around the trim box of a file. You could also outline objects, that kind of stuff, and that's a bit more complicated then. Then how to create a spot color on certain objects for underprint white, for example, with stickers. That would be something you could do. That's the same thing, like I said, with contour, that's more complicated. You can actually outline certain objects with profiles that serve for shapes. So if we go to shapes, it's possible to, yeah, I think I'd have to make one. But you can find a specific object, which would be the thing you want to have underprint on, depending on a check. So if you have a certain, like if there is something I want underprint white, you can detect anything that is something and put the underprint white underneath there as a separate object. So that's possible. You cannot change text. Sorry, Ferdinand. It is not possible to edit text in the files. So it is not like an Acrobat where you can just put your cursor into a text and change it, because that's really not what pdfToolbox is for. You would use pdfToolbox to prepare your already good file for output. So you're not really changing the design, you're preparing it for a correct way of outputting the file. So that would be CMYK, that would be flattening, that would be pre-flighting, converting to be compliant with standards. They're not meant to start, for example, I don't want to move this penguin a little bit up or a little bit to the side, That's not what I'm supposed to do here. That's what you do in the design application. The same thing with editing text. You're supposed to have the correct text already, so you're not changing the text within this program. I'll answer some more questions in a minute. First, I want to show you something else that's very nice. So I have my car somewhere. Did I already play with this car? I might have. So I'll just close everything and start from a fresh document, just to make sure that I haven't messed around with the file too much. This one too. Okay, there we go. I don't really need these anymore, so let's close them up for a second. And let's open the car page again. So we have the car page. Something else that I want to show you is the visualizer. So that was the third part on my slides earlier. We have a few really cool visualizers in the program. They're underneath View. You can find Switchboard profiles in the Tools, and the visualizers are in the View category. One really interesting one is, for example, ink coverage. So it'll open the visualizer mode on the side. It'll say which mode, so you can select all the different modes that you found underneath View. See process, spot colors and stuff will be in here, so you don't have to go through the view once the mode is open. Let's leave it on ink coverage. We have highlighting, which is good, which is why you have all the nice orange stuff in the picture. And you can select your own threshold. So I put it on 300 here. You could put it on 270 if that's what you like. You can put it on 360 if you want to go with really lots of ink. And you have the gradation in color about how much ink there is over the thing that you're seeing here. So if I go to 270, you can see there's a lot of red spots, and there's even purple here. The purple means that it's basically register color, so it's CMYK 100% each. But it's outside of the bleed box, the trim box I mean, so it's not really a problem, even outside of the bleed box as well. Inside the image, however, you can see this Mercedes-Benz logo is pretty red. If we up this to 360, oh, it's still yellow, so there's really a lot of ink on that logo. And this is how you would be able to determine that. You just go to the ink coverage, you set the threshold that you want, and you'll be able to see what parts of your file might be giving you problems later on. So that's a nice one. We also have process separations, which shows you all the separations that are present. So you can see we have only CMYK in this file. If you had spot colors, they would show up here as well. And you can have different views. So we have CMY, which is why it's suddenly a little bit more faded. If we show the K channel, this is everything that is only black in the file. It only uses the K channel. And we have CMYK without spot colors and the regular page view, which is everything. Now in this file, of course, these two are the same thing because we don't have any spot colors in this file. So if you go, for example, we have spot color separation separately as well, individual separations if you want to look at cyan, magenta, yellow, and black separately. You can do that here. We also have registration, which would be less than I thought. I thought that would be all of them, but apparently they're in separate things. Then we have image resolution, very small objects, etc. Now if you go to inspect, we have the object inspector, which is also nice. Let's see, if we hover, see everything changing on the right? It's all the things that I'm hovering over with my mouse. They're getting separated. So if I go to the image and I click on the image, it will freeze the stuff on the right so I can move my mouse around freely. And you can see everything that was at my cursor points when I clicked there. So we have the image, but we also have some vectors apparently. We have, all these different vectors with apparently outlines of boxes. If we have the image, however, we can see the image is, so many pixels, this resolution, not compressed, device CMYK, 8-bit, all kinds of information that you can see about the image, and you have a preview as well. So if, for example, we go to the text and we click on the text, freeze it again, we see, again, there are some boxes underneath, but apparently the entire page has a box. So we go to text, we see, the font, 30 points, is the corporate A regular font that I saw earlier that I was thinking, that's nice. It's completely embedded, that's nice as well, and it's in CMYK using 100% K. And it's an overprint. So you can see all the information about certain objects. So I click to unfreeze, and I can click again on this, and you see that the entire logo is made of different vectors, all small vectors that are all in the same location, and you can see what's going on with the vectors. So this specific vector is CMYK, all in the 90s, which is why that's high attack. So that's the inspectors. It's really interesting to view. If you select something, you can see this tiny blue box over here. That's the part that we see here right now. So it actually gets a little note on the side there to show you what you're looking at. So that is the visualizers. I think the visualizers are a nice way to just look at what's going on, especially separations. If you look at individual separations, it's always nice to find out what's happening with your spot colors, for example. And if there are any spot colors, you can also find that out by going here. That's pretty hands-on with the visualizers. Okay, so we had the three main parts. We had the switchboard, which is let's go over them again. We have the switchboard, which has all the categories with the easy actions, doing lots of different stuff. That's always where you should have your first look if you're looking for something simple. We have the profiles, which is where the complicated stuff comes in. If you want to do a lot of things at once, or if you want to make sure that your file is immediately compliant to whatever output device you're trying to use a profile. Make a profile for your output device and just use it, and then your file will be converted. If something goes wrong, you'll get an error, and it will show you what happened, why it didn't work. Usually that's because something in the file just doesn't get recognized or is not compliant to any standards or whatever, which makes the program not be able to convert it or process it. So that would be the kind of error you would see here. And then we have the visualizers, which we just used, that you can use to inspect the file a little closer, hands-on, see what's going on, and see maybe what you can do to change it. Now, I'll go back to some of the questions. Let's see some of the questions we haven't answered. So, yeah, Philip, the contours again, like the penguin you say. So we have the penguin, which is white, right? So this one, oh, apparently I saved it after making it into color. I don't suppose I can undo that now. Come here. No. So it is now a white penguin. Can I get a fresh penguin? Yes, this is a fresh penguin. Oh, no, of course it's not white. I'm still in my view. Done. There we go. It wasn't a white penguin, it was a colored penguin. So we have the penguin and we have the white. So if we want to make a contour line around this entire thing, we would have to go to apply shapes, and we can apply a specific shape being a line around present object. So that would be a line that goes around everything that isn't the white background. And that could be a contour line, for example, if you wanted to make a sticker out of this and be able to cut the sticker nicely, that's how you would do that. That would be a profile, and we would make a new one saying make contour, I think. Add a fix-up from shapes. And then we can make, oh look, a die line with rounded corners. If you want to do that, there should be a way to, looks like I have to make my own. Oh, there we go. That was another good one. Create varnish for printed content. That was one more of your questions, like how you make a varnish. There's actually a fix-up available for that. Create varnish for printed content, so everything except white will get a varnish. So that's one of them, and they have the same one for including white. So you see some of the stuff is already readily available, and you won't even have to make it. But with the shapes, with the apply shapes fix-up, so if we go to apply shapes, I wonder where it is. fits in there, I'm sure. You can make your own fixup, little specifically that thing. I'll leave that for now because I'm losing. There's a lot of time happening into this. Let's answer some more questions that I can answer easily. Yes, we have done the outline of the penguin. Sorry, I can't show you right now how to do that. Is it possible to check if any text and objects filled rectangles are below 20% K and fix it by increasing to 25% K? Yes, you can, but that's also one of those fix-ups that takes a little bit of a complicated make. But you can look for any objects below 20% K and say I want it to be 25%. I actually did something very similar earlier when I said I was going to make Pantone 310C go to 50% C, 50% M. Can the toolbox analysis show tag? Yes, it can. It was actually visible in the viewer earlier. Total ink coverage was, it's not in this one. It would be in separations, I suppose. You can see your tag here. It's 67% tag, so that's the total ink coverage. Yeah, Philip, the same thing like I said earlier. If you want to put a varnish on the entire penguin or on something that passes a specific check, we saw that the check we looked at earlier excluded white areas or included white areas. If you say that's because there is a check somewhere in there that says, oh, is there white? Leave it out. Is there not white? Take it in, for example. If we change that check to a very specific check, for example, if it's black, if it's CMYK, if it's spot color, do it. It's possible. You can just make your own check up to do a very specific thing. Now, I'll go over to my final slide because we've already been at this for 55 minutes. That's a bit long for a basic overview, isn't it? So you see questions, but I already answered, I think, most of the questions that were asked. I would like to thank you all for joining in to this webinar today. Now, if you have specific problems that you need help with, don't hesitate to email us. You can email me at my mail address that you see on the bottom right, or you can ask your questions to support@4piece.com. which is probably the better way to go, because if I'm not available to check my mailbox, if it's in the support mailbox, then someone will definitely handle it, even if I'm out of the office. So I guess that's pretty much it. Once again, I want to thank you for coming, and have a very nice rest of your day.